nigga to take over, nigga to take over, nigga to take over, nigga the break's over, take over, nigga to take over, nigga to take over, nigga the break's over, take over, nigga to take.
Stand up, stand up,
yo, flow a
stand up,
yo, flow a.
How you this young, like spitting like that? Like where they do that at? Like, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, yo, I gotta put you in the studio. And I'm like, I've been trying to tell you for 2 months. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm that dude. You know what I'm saying? You don't understand. So he wound up putting me in, and you know the rest was history in terms of like, you know, with Marley and the Juice Crew and you know all that.
Let me ask you another question. When they was making In Control Volume 1, was you incarcerated during that time?
Yes, I was.
Because I was about to say, how the hell did you not make the symphony?
That was like, that's one of my, I mean, I don't regret nothing, man.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like I was just, it's funny because before this, I was telling the brother a song I had, and like in the song I said if I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like because everything up until this point made me who I am. So I don't regret nothing. But there was a time where I had major regrets. Obviously, when I was incarcerated in the Elmira Max A prison at 16. You know, and the tape came down the tier, and dudes had the Juice Crew tape, and they was like, yo, shorty, you ain't in no Juice Crew, why you ain't on this?
Wow.
And I was like, let me see that tape. So I looked at the tape, I was like, wow, like, yo, they really doing it. Because you gotta remember, when I got incarcerated, you know, Marley had a bullshit Mercury, Marley had a bullshit Cougar, you know what I'm saying? You know, Biz ain't have no car. You know, I think Shan had a little Audi. Shan was the only one that was stunting a little bit. You know, Polo always had a whip. DJ Polo always had a Benz. You know what I'm saying? As far back as I can remember DJ Polo, you know, Cuz, that's what he called everybody, Cuz, hey Cuz, that's DJ Polo. Polo always had a toothpick in the side of his mouth, his hat like this, and he always pushed the Benz, and he always rocked the specs. That was DJ Polo. So G-Rap was always in the Benz.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, they was the only two with cars. Shan, Polo, and G, they had cars, and Marley had a bullshit hoopty fucking Cougar. Nobody else had no whips, no money, no nothing. And you know, when I looked at the tape, you know, I see everybody roped up, you know, everybody on the back by the plane, and
I think in that era, everyone looked at that back of that cover and was like, these motherfuckers are doing it.
Yeah,
because they had the airplane in the background, like, yo, we're about to take a private flight.
They had the Learjet and all that, and I was like, wow. And I ain't gonna front, like, I was like, damn. And you know, I wasn't away a long time, but it was long enough to see like a lot of changes go down. And you know, then like shortly after that, I seen Kane's tape, and Kane was like my man. Like Kane was my man. Kane and G was my man. They always had like a secret competition thing, but they was always like my dudes, man. And like I remember Kane coming to the hood, and me and Kane, you know, putting our money together to split a hero. Now I see Kane on the cover, Long Live the Kane, but Kane deserved that, because Kane is, I'm not gonna say was, Big Daddy Kane is nice, man. He's an impeccable MC, man. He always has been. And you know, so to really answer the question, at that time I definitely felt some, you know, I felt some type of way. I was like, wow, you know. But shortly after I came home, and you know, the doors was back open for me. And it's funny because when I came home, I wasn't even gonna rhyme no more. And maybe that was a result of it, you know, me feeling like bitter and feeling hurt. But you know, that was to my own doing in a sense. So I couldn't be mad at nobody but myself. And you know, I just felt like, forget that, you know. And obviously that didn't happen, because once something's in you, you can't just forget it. You know what I'm saying?
Especially when you got a natural talent like that, and it's undeniable.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah, as much as you want to sway away from it, it's gonna keep on bringing you back.
Exactly.
Now we're gonna move up a little bit further into the career, a little tad bit. Like now, the era we're talking about, that was the era of, I was living in New York with my father at the time, at BLS. Every Friday night, BLS with Molly Mile. Magic was on there for a while, and then he you know, drifted away and all that. And they used to have Yo Cats freestyling on it. And I remember they have you on there, G-Rat, who did some old, I think Master Ace did some shit on there. They always used to drop the instrumental, and that was like the first time I ever heard freestyle. Woo! I mean, when did Molly decide, and Craig G, he used to have Yo Cats out there.
Yeah, Craig G's a freestyle beast, yeah.
So what made him to bring the MCs and the Juice Crew in there? And it seemed like during that time he was kind of molding you and G-Rap, and I think this is when the Juice Crew basically was kind of breaking up, and everyone parted ways and did their own thing, and Kane bounced, Biz bounced, but you and Craig G seemed like you stayed around with Molly and dropped your 2 albums.
Yeah, you know, you always gonna have like, it's just like, it's like levels of shit. Like even in the street, like you got levels of dudes that you'll have a general, you know what I'm saying, and you'll have a, you know, you'll have a boss, you'll have a capo, however you want to term it. But on these different levels, like, you know, there's different levels of awareness. There's different levels in certain things a motherfucker knows at a certain stage in his life. Obviously, Biz and Kane and G-Rap, you know, they were further in terms of the knowledge of the game.
Yeah.
So they pulled away quicker. It's like the oldest child, you know, is gonna obviously, if it's an older and mature child, it's gonna usually leave the crib before the youngest child.
Exactly.
So me and Craig G being the youngest, you know, for lack of a better term, children of the crew, we left later because we didn't have enough knowledge to go out on our own. Our wings wasn't ready, so we had to stay up in the nest a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And get that schooling and that training before we ventured out. But you know, and those dudes blew because they were, you know, you know, further in line than we were. So they blew first, and once they started blowing and they started seeing the game, they must maybe said to themselves, all right, you know, I don't really need this dude to have a career.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can have him on a production. He's a great producer, but I don't need him to have a career. I can have my own situation. You know, and that's what they chose to do.
I remember this joint, and a lot of cats ain't familiar with hip hop during that era, but it was an intro on BLS called Molly House of Hits, and you and Craig G did that to this day. And what is it, Granddaddy IU and Jack and beat?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I used to be like, for years, like, why ain't no one rocking that beat? And then Granddaddy IU took that joint, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's like the first song me and Craig did. That's actually the first and last song me and Craig did together, like just me and Craig G. You know what I'm saying?
Why do you think that?
I think it got to a point in our careers where we were just, you know, moving in different directions. Like, you know, Craig has always been a pro hip hop MC, you know, but I'm a pro hip hop MC, but my message is a little different because I have a different history from Craig. Exactly. Just like you had Big was always pro hustle, pro money, pro broads, and pro player. And Pac had that in him too, but Pac had that revolutionary side, which was a part of his makeup.
Exactly.
I think with Craig, his whole you know, his whole perspective was just hip hop, whereas mine was hip hop and, you know, the struggle too. So our directions kind of, you know, we kind of moved in different directions. That would be the only reason why, you know. And I would do a song with Craig G right now. You know what I mean?
It was no beef or anything like that?
Never. I never had a beef with Craig G.
Now, have you, I wanted to ask you this question. I asked, have you ever heard, like, when Molly was doing beats with you? Now, Molly, to me, people could say Dre or whatever. Molly Mao, hands down, is the greatest producer of all time. You can't take that away from him. And the reason why I say this, the dude transcended the music, and he basically made the most classics.
Yeah. And
you can play Molly's joint, and people won't even understand how many joints that got sampled from Molly sampling. You know what I mean?
Molly. When it comes to production and when it comes to hip hop, Molly is like nothing short of a genius, man. Yeah. And he had the vision, man. But just like a lot of us, you know, had Molly had the right people to you know, help